All right. Hey there, Rio here, and I'm recording this particular video before the start of the semester because I want to give you a little more content to consume if your time allows. And so what I'll do in this one is go over, there are going to be two videos, one from a prior semester, one from this semester, this one being recorded right now. And the one I'm recording today is really, hopefully, the intention is to get you thinking about the two times in the semester. I call them develop it's, but where you're going to take what you're learning from the course and build something, right? And that is quite a jump, right? But I believe you can do it. I know I've seen other students do it. I've done it myself, which is, here's what you're learning. And again, we're trying to add to that. And then here's what I'm going to create. And so to facilitate this part of our learn together, I'm going to show you what I've created in the past. And I will also show you what Andrew will end up creating through the course that you're watching. Okay, so I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to flip back to the assignment that is the Learn Together Week 1. I'm going to tell you what I want you to do for this work. Okay, first I'm going to go over to a program I created last time I taught this, which was a year ago. And I created a very simple kitty cat match program. And I simplified this from prior ones that I've done based on the organization of the Udemy course that we're taking. And so what I did here is I have 3 panels. These are responsive panels. Now, responsive design is not something he covers in here, but the expectation is by the time you get to 93, you have some experience with responsive design. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, if I drop into inspect, and I look at this, in this case it's a responsive, but if you can select devices. Like if I wanted to look at it on a Pixel 2, I could see what this looks like, right? So I have 3 divs in this case that are responsive to the screen size. So, but the important thing here is that I have a leaderboard, I have the gameplay itself, and then I have game details. But the whole idea of this is a, CRUD application. You create, you read, you update, and you delete. So in this case, here's the gameplay. This is where I'm creating information. So I'm going to select the username. I'm going to select the cat that I want to guess, right? I'm going to say my guess is Max, and the computer will then take a guess. And it says, oh, bummer, right? We selected Molly. So then what happens over here is that's the detail, right? And so over here, if I wanted to go in and click into the detail and give a review, and then I return to the game. Oh, that's right. I remember that I had to fix that. But what happens here is it gives a little star indicating these have been reviewed. Over here, what happens is this is a leaderboard, so it summarizes it. Okay, so this is one of the ones. Now, again, I'm just giving you examples, right? I'm going to ultimately give you the example of what he created, but I just want to show you. But what I also did last semester, and this is another example, is I created another one. Now, in this case, I created one for ordering system. And so this is a ordering system that when you place the order, it's going to keep track of the total and the number of orders, right? So if I wanted to choose 2, I want to choose 1, I want to choose 1, and then I submit the order, right? The totals update, it clears. So again, these are all just the basic idea. And the reason I'm showing you is to give you some time to think about what you might want to create. So before I leave, and we go, sorry, not before I leave, but before we go back and look at what you need to do, I want to show you the one that he creates, the Notes app, right? Now notice what he's done here is there's no CSS, there's no responsive design. So just know that's part of it. And in this case, we're creating notes. So if I wanted to create a note that says recording, screencast today, I can either remove that note, and that's the idea, right? So if you've never heard of CRUD, I could go look at it in a minute, but it's creating information, reading information, updating, and deleting. So in this case, if I return, oh, that's right. Part of this is the way I'm hosting this. So in this case, now I have this item. I can filter, right? So I could say, show me, right, all the ones with R, all the ones with E, sorting has different options, and this is what he's going to create. Okay. So again, what I've done here is just giving you examples. And if you're thinking, Rio, right, we've just started this class. This seems like too much. Well, the idea today is not for you to understand how he did it. That's what you're going to learn. The idea of today is for you to give some thought to what you might want to create. Like, what's something just getting user input, being able to read that input once it's given. And by the way, the way we're doing this is through local files, which if you're taking Node.js, we're going to show you much better ways to do it. But for the purposes of this class, it's fine. You're going to update information and you're going to delete information. But that's just the functions. Today I want you to think about is what, and by the way, it's better to do this with something that you find enjoyable, right? A topic that you find fun. So I'm going to end up creating something new this semester because I think it's important to do what I'm asking you to do. And so I'm going to create my third one. So now I've given you 2 examples. By the way, the other thing I will tell you is the other difference between these is that for this particular one, I converted the idea into what's called a class, and I ran everything through a class, something you will learn about later. So now that you've finished part 1, this is part 2, this video right here. Right, so you're all gonna do 2 develop its for this class. Now, the first one we'll do. This is not the level of output. The output that I just showed you was more of. This is an example of once we finish your second one. But the reason I'm showing it is for you to give some thought. Okay, so we will have 2 that we do a semester, 2 develop its. Again, 50% of the class, what's a big part. So this is what I've gone over. So now that you've watched it, I want you to give some thought to what you might create for this part of our class. And in your reply, in addition to part 1, I want you to do, and actually I didn't talk about this in part 1 because again, part 1 is from a past semester, but do something to distinguish, right? These. Oh, I can see I was already playing with this, which reminds me, let me go actually ahead and show you why I was playing with it. Because I noticed on the first video, okay, let me finish my thought and then I'll come back around. So you could do like a part 1 in your thing here, and you could give it a header, which would be kind of fun. And then you could put whatever what I've asked you to do for part 1, and then you could do part 2, or you could name it. Like you could give it some kind of logical name if you want to get creative here. Right, so part 2 is my CRUD ideas, right? So actually I had that in the writing before, I must have gotten rid of it. But more than anything, just separate these out with some kind of heading or something that shows me the 2. And the other reason I remember doing this was because I remember at the end of this video, I was actually using Firefox. So I just wanted to show you on Chrome, when you're embedding an image that you've placed out in the public directory, once you bring up that image, you can just copy the image address. And then in here, in your reply, and that's in 1, because I asked you to do a couple other things, but you could say embed image, and then you could copy that. And in this case, I could just update it. Well, it worked last time. Oh, alt text. How about we put it there where it's supposed to be? Not. And by the way, alt text is really important, and this is the idea of giving an alternative so your screen readers and other things can read it. And notice it gives me the dimensions. And what happens here is it actually also, because Canvas handles this part of it, is going to give you an image that's not as big, looking as big. Okay, so I wanted to show you that as well. All right, so I think that's all I wanted to go over for this particular one. I really just wanted to give you, because we're changing this into a 9-week mode, I want you today to give some thought to that. Now, if you're like, I can't even think of something, and you just have questions that you want to help clarify or talk about so that you can give this thought, you're welcome to put that in your reply. But your question is going to be hopefully indicative of the fact that you've given a little thought to this requirement that I've put out, which is, and let me just talk about that real quick, right? If you haven't heard, and this is a very common thing we see in software development, and let's see here, CRUD, here we go. So create, read, update, and delete, right? So these are the basic functions that your code will end up doing. But what, and by the way, you know, it has to be persistent storage, and this is what you're going to learn along the way. But more than anything, I want you to just give thought to what you might want to create in this important part of our class. All right, thanks, and I'll talk to you soon.